For me, these decisions are always made in layers. So we talked about TV. I want to make sure that TV is doing the best job within the channel. So that's like the job of of TV or whatever channel, whether it be Facebook, whether it be search. Make sure that that channel is doing the best it can and try to improve it over time. If you do that for every channel, sort of a bottoms up, then they'll all be doing better. But I also want to understand the interplay of the channels together. So TV or any other demand driving channel could be paid social, could be radio, could be billboards. That's going to have an effect on lower funnel things like search. And so you need to understand how they compare. I wouldn't say focus on one, not the other. It's do all of it, but try to understand them in their own context.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My name is John Camargo. I am your host, and my guest here today is Neil Walker, who is a VP of Growth at Oar Health. Neil, thank you so much for being here today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited to have this conversation because Oar Health and what you guys are doing is actually the first company in its niche or in its spectrum that I've had a conversation with here in the podcast. So why don't we start off with you just telling everyone a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about Oar as well.
Sure. I'm a 20-year veteran of marketing. I think the last 7 years, though, I've been focused on stigmatized healthcare. So I began by marketing hearing aids online through a health tech company called Audicus. After that, I joined Ro, some people might know as Roman. And there's a whole host of stigmatized healthcare conditions: erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, hair loss, weight loss. And then most recently at Oar Health, I'm VP of Growth. And Oar Health focuses on helping people with what is clinically known as alcohol use disorder. But I think a lot of people would commonly think of as or term alcoholism. So Oar Health provides access to medication that's proven to help. The medication, it reduces cravings. It also reduces overall drinking. So 70% of people come to us because they want to drink less. 30% come because they want to quit altogether. We find that 60, 70% of people are find it very effective. 73% of people drink less within the first 2 weeks. The medication is really effective. It's approved. The only thing is, almost nobody's heard about it. So that's kind of where my job is to make sure people know what it is, how it can help, and drive them to making that change.
Yeah, and that's interesting because when we first had our conversation, I was like, oh, this is something that I hadn't heard of before either. So I was so super excited to learn a little bit more about it. And talk to me, what are some of the alternatives that people can have to dealing with conditions like this, and how different are they from what you guys have to provide?
So I think if you were to poll 1,000 people and say, hey, how do you deal with alcohol use disorder? Most people, the very first thing they would say is go to a meeting, could do a mutual peer support meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous being by far the most well-known.
Yeah.
Others might suggest traditional therapy. So that could be online, that could be in person. And both of those are very valid ways of dealing with this issue. They're not for everybody. So, they don't work for everybody. Nothing works for everybody.
Of course.
What's great about the medication is it stacks with these things, or it can work on its own. So you can do AA and take the medication, or you can do therapy and take the medication. You could do all three if you really wanted to. There's no limit on, the number of weapons that you can bring to bear to solve this problem. When it comes to the medication itself, though, if people have heard of medication for alcohol use disorder, often they've heard of a different medication. There's one called Antabuse. Antabuse works by making you feel nauseous if you drink alcohol. This medication, naltrexone, which is what we most commonly prescribe, that doesn't do that. Instead, it's an opioid antagonist. So it essentially stops people from feeling the buzz of alcohol. So you crave it less. And if you do have a drink, one drink doesn't become two doesn't become four, and so on.
That's really, really cool. And I always liked a comparison that, not a comparison, analogy one of my professors used to have when it talks about like the binding receptors for people who aren't like really used to the jargon. So I'll use that and you can let me know if it's appropriate. But it sounds like it's really um, when there is that bus stop is there, and the bus usually comes in, gets to the bus stop, picks up everybody else, and goes away on its way. Now that bus stop is
Yeah.
full. The bus is already there. There's no way for any new buses to come through because the receptors are inactive to the mechanism coming through that would be giving them that buzz or giving them that craving for new things. Is that about right?
I have to be honest with you. You're now talking about chemistry. I understand it in
Ah,
I understand it in much blunter, simpler terms. So
got it.
I know that it's an opioid antagonist. I know that it blocks the opioid receptor.
Sure.
I have heard our medical team describe the functionality. I would not want to speak to it though.
No
So
stress. No
actually,
stress at all.
maybe you know more about it than me, Jal.
No, sir. I apologize for putting you on the spot there. It just gets me really curious because I had some flashbacks to when I used to be in a physiology class, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool," but people don't know that it's cool. So I was like, "Okay, let me show people that this is cool as well." But it's awesome. Talk to me a little bit more, Neil, about your career. I think it's so interesting that you've been into so many places. You've held so many different companies with growth and the expertise that you have going on. So tell me a little bit more about how you've taken all of those lessons, the expertise, the experiences that you have to now grow Oar Health as well.
Yeah. So I think when thinking about stigmatized healthcare, which, as I said, is the last 7 years,
Uh-huh.
has been my focus. I think the interesting thing about that is stigmatized. The issue of stigmatization. It's not really a healthcare problem. It's
Yeah.
a mental problem. It's a perception problem. It's actually something that I have conviction that can be solved with marketing,
Mhm.
because this is not about how the body reacts to a chemical or some foreign agent. This is about how we perceive things. So
Yeah.
you know so some examples. Uh, I wear eyeglasses. When I was growing up, you might get teased for wearing eyeglasses. No one does that anymore.
Yeah.
Hearing aids, which when I started working in hearing aids, I could not believe how stigmatized it was. Older people would much rather, I believe, walk with a cane or a walking stick than they would have a hearing aid on their ear. And that's
Really?
historically they were big and bulky and beige, and often they were kind of gunky and nasty.
Yeah.
So there's this like awful perception in people's minds. So when people found out that they had hearing loss, they on average would take 7 years to deal with the problem. And just the very topic of hearing aids would make them mad. I'd never
Wow.
encountered such rage about something they desperately needed and that would really benefit their life. The common refrain was, I know I have a problem, but I'm not ready for the solution.
Hmm.
When it comes to ED, um, and hair loss, and frankly, premature ejaculation, all of these were lessons at Roe. We learned, don't talk about the problem. That's the last thing people want to talk about. Just talk about the solution. It's
Uh-huh.
going to make you better in bed. It's going to make you last longer. You're going to get luscious hair. You're going to lose weight. People don't want to dwell on the negativity. Just talk about the benefits.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
but this stigma is so deep seated and long running. As a history buff and a major geek, I was reading a book about a year or two ago about street slang in Elizabethan England.
Okay.
Weird topic. The top two things that you could say to insult a man would be that he had ED and he had hair loss.
Okay.
Like, you wouldn't necessarily in Elizabethan England phrase them in that way, but these are
Uh-huh.
like 500-year-old, 600-year-old insults.
Yeah.
With testosterone and low testosterone, we learned there was no stigma to low testosterone because it was brand new. Guys were super open talking about their low T, and they were super keen to get testosterone testing, and they wanted testosterone support because nobody had ever been teased on the playground for having a low
Uh,
T. It was too new. It was sciencey. So, stigma is really deep seated, and
definitely.
overcoming it is really difficult. And huge efforts are needed to destigmatize. in erectile dysfunction alone, that's a new phrase that the guys behind Viagra came up with. We used to talk about the phrase impotence, but that was
Yeah.
too scary, so they had to come up with a whole new way of describing it. So
Um,
it's really up to us how
yeah.
something is stigmatized or not. And as a marketer, you have to work
Yeah.
with that and try and find ways around it.
Yeah, I agree with so many, excuse me, with so many of the things that you said, especially when talking about really the outcomes, because I think so many companies are so focused on, hey, here's how good we are doing this and all these amazing features, and like nobody truly cares. Like if you're selling somebody a trip to Maui, sell them on Maui, their experience, the things that they're gonna feel when they're there, not the plane ride and TSA and getting pat down and taking your shoes off and the trash airplane food that they're gonna have to eat. Like nobody cares about that. Talk about the actual good things that they do care about, and the rest take care of itself. Would you agree with that?
So yes, but with alcohol use disorder, we learn the opposite. You've got to talk
Talk to me
about
about that.
got to talk about the problem. If so, when we launched on TV, we had two ads. One went straight in talking about the solution. The other framed the problem and then introduced the solution.
For sure.
The problem-led ad definitely outperformed the solution-led one, and
Yeah.
is we learned that you need to frame up the problem first.
Uh-huh.
The expression we use most commonly, are you drinking too much, or do you worry that you're drinking too much? Without that framing, the solution, I guess people don't hear it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I guess the lesson is like stigma is peculiar to the particular healthcare problem. ED is
Uh,
not the same as hair loss, is not the same thing as alcohol use disorder, and so on.
very, very interesting. Yeah, it's making sure that people at least get they resonate with what they see, so that if it's the running away from pain or running towards the solution, make sure that it actually resonates with them and it's something that they would want to take part of for creating the solutions in their lives. When it comes to the and if they don't agree with that, of course, please just let me know there. But when it comes to I want to shift the conversation to the growth of Aura itself now. How long have you guys been around? Remind me again.
Or has it left its incubator? I think it's fair to say 4 years ago,
Awesome.
four and change.
Perfect. So 4 years ago, and you've been there for a good chunk of that since then. Is that right?
Yeah, a little over a year and a half. So definitely, it was definitely a going concern when I arrived, and my job
Definitely.
was to take it from, there's the 0 to 1 problem with startups.
Yeah.
Can you get it at all? Then there's the 1 to 10 problem.
Yeah.
I think my role was really the 1 to 10. Like, we have a thing, can we 10x it?
Awesome. And the reason why I'm asking that is because when we were first having our conversations, you were telling me about so many things that were happening internally to, of course, bring those goals around. And I'm not asking you to give me your entire your entire strategy here, but talk to me on how you go through thinking about growth, but also thinking about overcoming all the challenges that are in the way of achieving all that growth.
Sure. Well, I think the first thing to think about when it comes to growth for us is, what is our objective? For us, we're very focused on sustainable, efficient growth. So when I joined, we were breaking even / profitable on a month-to-month basis. That's remained our goal. So our focus is not, and has never been, growth at all costs. Partly that's because we're just a smaller business. We don't have the massive capital reserves that folks who raised money 5, 6, 7 years ago might have. So it's not really an option. But I think also it's really easy as a startup to fall into the trap of one day we'll be profitable, but that doesn't happen today. So our focus is profitability. So when it comes to making bets, we tend to try to make small to medium bets, and frankly, one at a time. So historically, the business has been, it grew up under a paid search, organic search channel mix. We've added radio, we've added TV. We're now in the process of adding demand gen on on YouTube. So these
Uh-huh.
things are being added one thing at a time. And we sort of think about the like fast, but maybe more expensive things, which is paid media. And then the
Mhm.
slow and efficient things, which are organic content, whether that's written or video. And then the sort of the tide that lifts all boats, which is conversion rate optimization, CRM. So
Yeah.
in any given month, it's like spinning plates. We're trying to do one major improvement in each of those areas.
Interesting. So it's separating the variables as much as possible so that there's clarity when something gets tweaked. You see that that tweak was actually because of the YouTube ads that are now getting introduced, or it's because of when we launched the TV, the revenue grew by 3x, and that's how you try to analyze everything as much as possible so things are clear, and then the next steps are taken based on the previous steps.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing more frustrating when running an experiment is if after you get results, whether they be positive or negative, you then can't understand why
Yeah.
you've. And if
Yep.
you've changed four things all at once, especially if they're not, if they're in four different areas of the consumer funnel or of the business,
Yeah.
then it's going to be very hard to unpack. Um,
Agreed.
I will say, as a smaller business, that is um, an easier process to manage.
Uh-huh.
You're a much bigger business, controlling every single part of the business and making sure only one lever at a time is being pulled. That gets harder and harder. So, like, we have the virtue of being a smaller business right now, and so I can foresee it getting harder in time.
That's awesome. And I have a question that might show the difference in our experiences here, but I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge when it comes to the digital side of marketing and paid media and outbound, like a million of all these other things. However, one of the things that, of course, you mentioned is working really, really well for you is the TV ads, which I don't have any experience with. So, of course, I understand how they work and all these things, just like um, I understand how they work because of the marketing frameworks that exist, but I would love to understand how you view or how you go about approaching the tracking and the attribution on there as well. Because with online, it's so simple to understand where the click came from, the entire customer journey to the close, like CRMs and tracking and UTM parameters, like a million other things that we can use. But with TV or ads that are on billboards and such, it's out there and you can kind of see the top line grow or come down, but in my perspective, that's about it. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I think there are levels to the way these things can be managed. So let's start at the smallest, most granular, which is inside the channel. The way we have it set up is that we measure website traffic as a result of the TV ad. So if it's delivered digitally, it would be post impression. I suppose it could be post click, but most likely post impression. If it's delivered in a linear fashion, then we measure the uplift to the website within 5 minutes. So we then put a column, dollars deployed, website traffic lift created, and that allows us to measure a cost per view. This is the way we did it at Row. It's the way we do it at Oar Health. At Row, we spent, I don't know, let's say roughly $100 million on TV. We ran a lot of TV for a startup, that is, over a 4 or 5 year period.
Okay.
I looked at the correlation between driving visits and whatever the sales or conversion metric would be, and there's a very strong correlation. So I know it all. If I can drive someone to the website because they've seen the message, that's generally a good thing. So that's sort of like my walking around measurement that enables me to compare any given TV network to another, any given message or creative to another, and it allows me to optimize and make decisions within the chat.
Does that mean that the brevity of when that happens, so the time frame in which things are happening, or when the TV ad is ran, that plays a huge role? Because, for example, like let's say ad runs, I don't know, assuming you would run at least daily or whatever the frequency might be, then there's a certain period in the day in which you are looking for those statistics, you're looking for those. But if it's like a week from when the ad ran, if the ad has stopped running, then that's a completely different game. Is that right? It will be much harder to do that.
This measurement captures immediate response. It's
Okay, so yeah, that makes
important.
sense.
It's important to note that immediate response is not the only response created.
Yep,
It's the only response that this methodology measures. But
of
like,
course.
it allows you at least to have an apples to apples within channel data point where you can say
Mm-hmm.
ESPN is better than Fox News,
Agree.
and problem led is better than
Mhm.
solution led when it comes to messaging, right? So it
Mhm.
allows you to make in channel decisions.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of taking it one step level up, then you
Yep.
start getting into like, well, what happens when TV is on versus when TV is off? So what happens to the blended acquisition cost for that day, week, month?
Yep.
What happens to search? What happens to the volume of people searching for you, organic search? So those are all those signals that say, um, what's the value of this that isn't within 5 minutes?
Mm.
Third level is if you were going to run a media mix model, which is you basically tell the model, here are all the things that happened, here are the results. Tell me mathematically what seems to mathematically have driven what inputs have driven what outputs.
Mhm.
We haven't done that yet at all. We don't have a channel mix that's complex enough, but it's
Mhm.
definitely something that I'm um, planning for the future.
And as a marketer yourself, is there and I'll ask this because I know so many different marketers have like their preferred or like their favorite thing to look at. Do you have such a thing for you? Like if it's the of course, like revenue is the biggest one, duh, but like discounting the revenue, um, things like, hey, I really like understanding the CPM that's happening in the specific ad, or the click through rate, or the website visits that are happening based on this XYZ thing in the back end. Out of all of the marketing that you guys do, is there one thing that you're like, oh, I love looking at this thing and making sure that I can keep improving this thing over and over and over again?
Um, I gotta be honest with you. I would say no, no single thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if I was forced to, I would say, what is my 30-day rolling blended CAC? So
Uh-huh.
all dollars deployed, all acquisition created on a 30-day rolling basis.
Yeah.
If you graph that, 30
Uh-huh.
days rarely lies. It's long enough to say, hey, you made some changes 3 weeks ago, and now they're starting to come through.
Okay.
Um, you might find 14-day more
Yeah.
valuable, but one of those two. And
Yeah.
then, so that's on the acquisition side. On
Yep.
retention, we look at the 3-month retention rate. So
Yep.
that's kind of the canary in the coal mine for us. If that's strong,
Uh-huh.
that means we're holding on to people, and that the
Uh-huh.
medication is doing what it needs to, and that they're having success. If we're
Uh-huh.
losing people at that point, that's a negative bellwether moment. So
Yeah.
those are the two sort of, you know, if I had two numbers on the dashboard, those are what I would most commonly look at.
I like that a lot. And one of the reasons why I wanted to ask is because I see so many companies and leaders that are just focusing on the wrong metrics. Like so many people that overvalue, of course, like the lead costs and all these things. These are all important, but at the end of the day, there's other metrics that can drive the business forward much more if you focus on optimizing the right things. So I would love to hear from your perspectives. What are some of those metrics that you think are, I'll call them overrated, to just obsess about, that aren't really driving the growth and the leverage results that people think they are?
Uh, I think
I'm throwing some
my
curveballs at you. My bad.
yeah, I don't think I would. I don't think I would say. I can't think of any single metric which I think is a nonsense metric.
Mhm,
I
of
think
course.
that, for me, these decisions are always made in layers. So we talked
Uh-huh.
about TV. I want to make
Yep.
sure that TV is doing the best job within the channel. That's like the job of of TV, or whatever channel, whether it be Facebook, whether it be search. Make sure that that channel is doing the best it can, and try to improve it over time. If you
Uh-huh.
do if you do that for every channel, sort of a bottoms up, then they'll all be doing better. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but I also want to understand the interplay of the channels together. So TV or any other demand driving channel could be paid social, could be radio, could be billboards. That's going to have an effect on lower funnel things like search. And so you need
Yep.
to understand how they compare. I wouldn't say focus on one, not the other. It's do all of it, but try to understand them in their own context.
Because
So,
grabbing pieces of data from here and from there, they're only going to give you so much information as opposed to the full picture.
right. Yeah. I mean, I also think that but if you really want a mistake, I would say if you have a channel that is not well suited to a last click measurement, so radio, not very well suited to a last click measurement, traditional linear TV it's not really suited to a last click measurement because they don't generate clicks. It's really, if you do generate some kind of direct attribution, it's usually going to be pretty scary. Like it's going to be multiples of what your tolerance is. It's very easy if you're used to dealing entirely with channels that are direct attributable, then it's very easy to apply your expectations from those kinds of channels to your say linear channels. So if you're I know Google and I know Meta inside out, and I'm used to understanding the line item of this ad produced these many sales, and there's a cost per that I can believe in, and it's it's 1-to-1. If you're used to that, you're going to find it difficult to understand there's kinds of channels that tend to be poor at giving you that line by line, and also tend to do a much better job of generating the halo effect.
The translation is completely different from what the more direct channels are, as opposed to the ones that aren't so direct.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And it's really so you said before you're not super experienced with TV.
Yeah.
A lot of people people come to me fairly regularly and say, hey, I'm in the same boat. We've done tons of Google, tons of Meta. We understand those inside out. We don't understand TV. The problem is like, if it doesn't work immediately, it's pretty scary, and it's easy to get I don't know, turned off by the channel and say, okay, experiment run, has not been valuable for us.
Yeah.
Especially if you're expecting it to work in the way that Meta and Google do. So each channel needs to be considered as its own entity, and then you sort of weave them all together in your sort of like grand unified view of the consumer journey.
No, that's great. That's great insight, because even of course, on the execution side of things, but also on an expectation side of things, they have to be met, or else it's as you said, disaster to ensue. So that's never good. That's never good for any company or any leader trying to get things to work, right? And I have two final questions here for you, Neil. One is a question that I've been asking almost everybody that is a part of the podcast, and then we'll hop on to the final question as well. The first one is, let's say you had a magic wand and you could just wave this amazing wand to solve one thing in the business, a challenge, an obstacle, whatever it might be, maybe something that's knocking on your door every single day, that would allow you to achieve your growth goals, your revenue goals, your targets, whatever that might be, just like that. You wave that wand and your wishes happen. What's the one thing that you'd like to solve in the company?
Well, it's quite tactical.
Okay.
Which I think is what you want. I would say right now it would be getting Meta to change its policy on advertisers who are dealing with addiction. Right now, there is they prohibit folks who are marketing addiction from working with them in the way that you would normally expect. I won't go into this in tons of detail.
Yeah.
Which I thought last week, they had changed their policy with the January 1st healthcare reframing of their policy decisions. But it's not the case. I learned 2 days ago. So I got my hopes up, and hence why I know it might be my magic wand.
I like that. I like that because
Yeah,
I
we
think
can't use Meta as a channel, which
yeah, no,
is a
it,
real, it's a real
that's
limitation.
yeah, one of the biggest channels, if not the biggest, depending on how you're viewing it, to take care of things, which is interesting. And I think on a last piece, tying back to everything that we were saying, all these things are phenomenal. But if attribution and tracking isn't there, then like there's only so much that you can keep improving, right? So I like that. I like that answer a lot because it ties back to so many of the things that you were saying on like showing the importance of that too. So thank you for that answer. That is exactly what I was looking for. Um, and final question here from for you is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Sure, let's do it.
Here it is. What is the biggest learning you've had whilst growing the company, and how does that affect your strategies moving forward?
Biggest learning. Um, okay. When it comes to alcohol use disorder, people who suffer from this are not the same person in any given 24-hour or 7-day cycle. We know that at the beginning of the day, the beginning of the week, the beginning of the month, they tend to be a lot more open to changing their lives for the better. So Monday morning, especially if it was the first of the month, that would be the moment that I would want to speak to somebody. And so that definitely that was something that we learned reasonably quickly, and
Yeah.
is another reason why like traditional media is good, because traditional media you can actually be a lot more controlled about when in the day your ads run.
Mhm.
And so that's again, but it really comes back to understanding your consumer. Like,
Yeah.
if you have alcohol use disorder, the chances are in the morning you'll be hungover. You'll be therefore maybe a little bit more contrite and willing to take a leap. By the time you get to 7 p.m., I don't know if that's as true.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that.
But once you hear it, it's sort of obvious.
Yeah, like like you're telling me that
Like,
you're saying.
yeah, of course. Why? Obvious.
Oh, that's yeah. It's exactly as I said. It's the most obvious thing, but also not the most obvious thing if you're not thinking about it. Like now that you told me, I was like, oh, duh, like Neil, duh, like of course this is a thing. Oh wow, that makes so much sense. I can say I've learned many new things today from our conversation. Neil, thank you so much for your time. This has been so awesome. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, or of course a little bit more about Oar Health as well?
Oar Health is available at www.oarhealth.com. If you come to our site, we have a fairly large resource blog. So we'll tackle all kinds of topics related to alcohol use disorder, how to get treatment, the different types, the steps, the processes. And if this is something that resonates with you, it's worth a try. And I wish you the best of luck. So
amazing. Thank you so much. I'll of course leave everything down below here if you want to check that out. And if you enjoyed listening to this conversation, you want to hear more conversations like this, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, Neil.